I believe that America's best days can still be ahead, and I want to lead us forward. Join me now in the Reid Revolution.
Wednesday morning, how you feeling today? Did you stay up late for the State of the Union last night? I'm used to getting a good night's sleep, but I stayed up to watch President Trump last night from start to finish. And then felt like it was my obligation to stay up and watch Governor Spanberger's response. We'll talk about that this morning. And the insane, people who watch this, I guess we'll look at the polls today, if you believe the polls. But I thought the Democrats really embarrassed themselves last night. The ones who showed up. Maybe I should change what I said yesterday. Because yesterday I said I thought it was a bad look not to come to the State of the Union. But compared to their behavior last night, maybe it would be better not to even be present. It's like if your ex-boyfriend or girlfriend, ex-wife is going to be at an event and you know that it's going to be tension filled and you know everybody's going to be watching, whether you avoid each other in the room, which is like the best case scenario, or whether there's some sort of conflict, it just puts it's a mess, right? So responsible people say, you know what, I don't need to be there. Let's just let this one go. Again, unless it's the wedding of your daughter or your son, who cares whether you're there, right? You don't need to worry about it. But my instinct is you have an obligation. You're a legislator. You need to be there. And maybe I was mistaken about that because I thought they looked terrible with their behavior last night. And Trump and his team are smart as they could be to put him on the spot. He had them seated during the worst moments where you're thinking, you guys are fools not to stand up and acknowledge the mother of a young woman from Ukraine, for God's sake. Everybody, all these Democrats have hung Ukrainian flags in front of their house. They can't find Ukraine on a map. They have no clue what they're talking about. But for a year or plus, everybody has, you could just tell whether you're dealing with a whack job liberal if they've got a Ukraine flag in front of their house. They have no connection to Ukraine, know nothing about it at all, but they put a Ukraine flag in. And then when a Ukrainian young woman is murdered in Charlotte, North Carolina, they got nothing to say. Got nothing to say. This is pretty telling, the attitude that was on display last night. And I'll just say, we'll show some of the clips here in a second. I thought Abigail Spanberger was passable. I didn't think the setting, I thought they kind of wasted, as a communications guy, I thought they kind of wasted the room at the Capitol in Williamsburg. You could have done it in any room. They removed the speaker's chair. They just threw up some flags, which is about the cheapest thing you can do if you're setting a stage for a political speech. And then, we'll talk at the end of the show about this, and I don't know whether producer Dan, we'll talk to him at the end of the program, but I felt like the applause, was it just me, or was the applause related to Abigail Spanberger's speech piped in or recorded or something? I know there were real people in the room. You're lucky that lightning didn't strike the Capitol in Williamsburg, the old Capitol in Williamsburg, with the communists that were in that room. The people who are pushing to raise your taxes 50 plus times are standing there applauding a woman who's talking about making things more affordable. Really and truly, does she think she's going to get away with that? She blew it. Abigail Spanberger blew it. She came in as governor, and within 2 weeks, the Democrats have pushed for all of these tax increases. So, hey, with all due respect, Governor, stick it. You don't have any credibility on this issue anymore. She didn't come out and try to stop those tax increases. We'll see what she vetoes. Hopefully she's feeling the heat about this, but she's not in charge of her own party anymore. They're dragging her around I would compare it to Ralph Northam, but I mean, they had a string around Ralph Northam's genitals and they dragged him around for 2+ years and made him do whatever they wanted. I mean, he was not an autonomous man when he was governor. He was told what he was going to do. And, she's a female, so it's not the same thing. But they're not. Look, this is absurd. And I hope that today, in the national analysis of what she's talking about, they'll focus on how she was dressed and whether she was a good speaker. It was basic. I've never really been impressed by Abigail Spanberger as a speaker. Have you? I don't think she's that great. I don't, I judge men and women by their looks in many cases. I judge myself that way too. So, I'm not, but let's just be honest. You do that. Yeah, I don't think she's a beauty queen, which is probably good because then maybe people wouldn't take it. She's not like Sarah Palin where everybody's going, oh my God, she's so beautiful. But she's just not that dynamic a speaker. She's not bad. Don't get me wrong. I'll be honest. She's not bad, but she's not that great a speaker. So I don't think anybody who didn't already know her saw her last night and thought, oh, wow, we have found the new rising star for the Democrat Party in the United States. And then the second they find the headlines about all these tax increases, I think they're going to think she's a total loser. And I mean, I don't know how many times you're going to let people lie to you and let them get away with it. She just got up there and lied. So we'll start. Let's do this. Producer Dan, let's go through some of these clips from last night for people who didn't stay up because, it is funny. On the East Coast, with this thing starting at 9, and it didn't start right at 9, it's kind of late when it runs on as now the record-holding State of the Union speech. It was a very, very long speech last night. I guess we'll start with the clip that you put together, part 1, the intro here. Let's just take a look at this real quick.
When I last spoke in this chamber 12 months ago, I had just inherited a nation in crisis with a stagnant economy, inflation at record levels, a wide open border, horrendous recruitment for military and police, rampant crime at home, and wars and chaos all over the world. But tonight, after just 1 year, I can say with dignity and pride that we have achieved a transformation like no one has ever seen before, and a turnaround for the ages. It is indeed a turnaround for the ages.
I mean, Mark Warner, our senator, who, by the way, is up for re-election this year, oddly enough, after he promised not to run, more than 2 terms. Now, what is this, the 4th term? I don't know. The guy's totally, there's something wrong with Mark Warner if you're looking at him in the modern era. He stormed out of the chamber yesterday. So that seems inappropriate to me. And he said he couldn't stand the lies. What about what Donald Trump just said isn't true? I mean, were there any lies in what he just said? Is it not correct that Biden delivered chaos around the world? The world's never going to be perfect because they're bad people who are doing stuff, which is what the Democrats never really get. The only people they think are bad are us. They don't like their own people in America. But they make up excuses for tyrants around the world. My entire life, I'm 55 years old, my entire life, that's what Democrats constantly do. There's always some excuse for the tyrants, whether it's Fidel Castro in Cuba or, in this case, Maduro in Venezuela. It's always an excuse for the bad guys on the other side of the planet. And it's always blaming America. Trump has come in, and I don't know why they won't give. I mean, I just would have a little more respect for you if you acknowledged that Trump has worked these deals out, these peace deals around the world. I mean, that is significant. I know you hate him. I know you don't like him. I know you don't like him personally, but he's done that. So why don't you give him credit for that? It would give you credibility if you would acknowledge that. Um, Inflation was out of control when Trump came into office. And I do think, I mean, I guess you could argue about who's responsible for that, but I think that's the Democrats too. I mean, I, the Democrats wrecked the American economy deliberately during COVID. Anybody who was responsible as a leader would have had a measured response, certainly after the first 2 or 3 months of COVID. I'll acknowledge we didn't know what was going on the first 2 or 3 months. So, you shut things down. I probably would have chosen not to do that, but then everybody would have blamed me or blamed whoever was in charge for the deaths. So you've got this balancing act of what do we do? But once the data comes in where we find out that it's old people and people with compromised immune systems who are going to die from COVID, can we just be blunt? Are we allowed to do that? Just be honest with each other? Once we figured out that that is who was in danger here, people who are overweight, morbidly obese, not just a little chunky, but morbidly obese, people who had HIV or had cancer or were undergoing treatment where their immune systems were compromised. Once we realized that those were the people who were in danger of being really, really sick and probably dying, possibly to probably dying, you can recalibrate. Democrats never did that. And I'm going to tell you why. And there's a disturbing pattern that's on display here. They kept the government closed. They kept the businesses closed. They put their comrades in the media put a death clock up to show how many people were dying every hour during soap operas and the Wheel of Fortune, because they were trying to manipulate the minds of Americans to vote against Donald Trump in the reelection. That's what that was. They were willing to sacrifice anybody they had to sacrifice. They were willing for local businesses to close. They looked out for their friends at the banks, and they looked out for their big box store friends who were, a part of the major investment world that funnels money to the Democrat Party. They looked out for them and allowed them to stay open, state after state after state, but they closed the American economy. And Trump, one of the reasons I think Trump is being so assertive today on the ICE issue, not as assertive as I think he should be, if we're being honest, but one of the reasons he's being assertive is I think he was counseled by the DC crowd 4 or 5 years ago. Oh, don't overreact. Don't push too hard. You'll look like the bad guy. He got played in some ways because Democrats, they don't care who they harm as long as they win power. I mean, they've demonstrated that over and over again. Mark Warner, who stormed out yesterday, our senator in Virginia, he constantly railed against the closure of the government last year during an election year. Oh my gosh, this is hurting Virginia. This is terrible for Virginia. And then he would walk into the Senate chamber and do this, which meant keep the government closed. So you can't have it both ways, Senator. So, it's really telling to me that he would storm out to try to get attention last night instead of doing his job and sitting there. I mean, I would have had some respect for someone who shows up. I mean, Fetterman, for God's sake, showed up in a suit last night. That guy doesn't wear a suit to anything. How is it that Fetterman, who I thought was a total goofball, is one of the people that I'm beginning to think has at least some independence of thought and will stand up for what he thinks? I am kind of just shocked by that. There was nothing that Donald Trump just shared in that opening that was factually inaccurate. The opinion is who's responsible. Well, Joe Biden was president and things were going off the rails, and all of the comrades in the media tried to cover for him. And now they're trying to shift the blame for high inflation, which is under control now, knock on wood. Now that Trump has been in office, come on. You got to be semi-objective in analyzing just the data. And Trump's right, and he deserves credit for that. I did think it was interesting to see the hockey team. This was a great moment. I'm glad he did it early in the speech. Let's play a little bit of the segment where the U.S. men's hockey team that won the gold come out. So some of the Democrats are still seated. Some are smart enough to stand.
That's the first time I've ever seen them get up.
Yeah, there you go. There you
And
go.
actually, not all of them did get up.
See, I'm glad Trump points that out because, can I be honest with you? I've been watching these speeches almost all of my life since I was a kid. I was the nerd who stayed up and watched these speeches, and no one else did. And then I would go to school, and no one could talk to me about it because no one else watched, including the teacher. Okay. This used to be the moment that everybody could agree, hey, we're proud to be America. Let's wave our little flag. We're going to argue over this policy. We're going to argue over taxes. We're going to argue over welfare. We're going to argue over midnight basketball. I don't know. We're going to argue over whether we go to war and this. Okay. Everybody in America would stand up and applaud a victorious Olympian in whatever sport if they were introduced. It'd be like, oh, wow, this is great. We all have the reflected glory of this person's success. The fact that modern day Democrats, both in this setting where it's the official representatives of the people of different states and these nasty people online who I'm kind of shocked, their entire attitude changes based on whether there's any kind of relationship to Republicans and to Trump. There were people who were applauding Team USA who, as soon as there was some sort like a phone call from the president congratulating them, not a Donald Trump endorsement, him congratulating them, suddenly they hate Team USA. Suddenly they hate everybody associated. Oh, I'm ashamed to be an American, they said. I mean, how ridiculous is this? How crazy is this? And that's what you saw on display last night. I'm glad that Trump pointed that out. I wish, now, this is me as somebody who used to write kind of significant speeches in the Congress. I wish that he had made some of that clear, like turn to them and say, are you serious? This is the kind of thing that we should all be excited about, that we should all support America, and you can't stand, really draw that connection. But he pointed out that they didn't stand, and he did it in his own way, his kind of brutal way. And anybody who was bothering to watch would see that. But the Democrats, if it's good for America, they just can't get on board with it, especially if there's anything related to Republicans or Trump. I think that's kind of sad, and you should be angry about it. You should be angry about it. Let's see. Now, this was shocking to me. The mother of the young woman who was murdered in Charlotte, North Carolina, on the train, the Ukrainian, beautiful young girl. And he introduces the mom. And these people don't stand for that. Watch this. This is a little bit of a longer clip.
Last summer, 23-year-old Irina was riding home on the train when a deranged monster who had been arrested over a dozen times and was released through no cash bail stood up and viciously slashed a knife through her neck and body. No one will ever forget there were people on that train. No one will ever forget the expression of terror on Irina's face as she looked up at her attacker in the last seconds of her life. She died instantly. She had escaped a brutal war only to be slain by a hardened criminal, set free to kill in America, came in through open borders. Mrs. Zaretsky, tonight I promise you we will ensure justice for your magnificent daughter, Irina. How do you not stand?
Good for him for pointing it out. How do you not stand? Just out of human compassion. I mean, even if you think he's exploiting this for some reason, and it's not a one-off. I wish this was a one-off, but it's not. This no cash bail thing that the Democrats constantly push, their concept of criminal justice reform is putting us all in danger. All of us. So somebody who commits a crime, not somebody who steals a candy bar from the 7-Eleven, somebody who attacks an innocent person, it's a revolving door. Maybe they get arrested, maybe they go before a judge, and boom, they're out on the street. And what do you think that person's going to do? Go home and read the Bible and turn their life around? Hell no, that's not what's going to happen. You know that's not what's going to happen. So what are the Democrats doing? Why are they putting us all in danger? And why are we tolerating it? Why are you voting for dumbass people who put everybody in jeopardy and cost people lives? And then they have the gall to sit in the chamber in the U.S. House of Representatives and don't even have the class to acknowledge the personal pain that their policies have caused. I have a problem with that. And I hope that people were watching last night, because you see, these are not characters. These are not actors and actresses. These are real people who are suffering because of the horrible, stupid policies that the Democrats are pushing all across the country, including here in Virginia. And I am just shocked. I mean, you're a fool politically if you sit on your tail when that's happening. You're a fool politically. And it shows that you're arrogant too, that you really don't give a damn what people think of you when it comes to basic human compassion. When your stupid policies are exposed and people are being hurt. And I think we have to hold these people accountable. And it really angers me to see that. That poor woman with what she's gone through, and these arrogant jerks sit there on their tails. And I'm glad Trump called them out for it. That's not the norm, but we're not living in a normal time because we're not dealing with decent, responsible people who are looking out for the American people, And when we come back, we will talk a little bit about that clip where he says, stand if you agree with this. Government's number one obligation is to protect the citizens of the United States, not illegal immigrants. And the Democrats, in lockstep, stayed seated. Come on. If you can't stand for that, you really shouldn't be at the U.S. Capitol representing anybody, and you shouldn't be at the Virginia Capitol representing anybody, because there should be no question. Your obligation is to take care of the citizens of this country. Go work for the UN if you're concerned about everybody else. Great, go work for the UN. Then you got a whole nother set of problems to deal with. But if you're representing people, the citizens of Virginia, the citizens of the United States, you should be on your feet saying, I'm going to look out for these people. I mean, I hope you don't treat your family like that. What's your number one obligation as a mother and a father? To look after your neighbor 2-3 blocks over, or to make sure that your family is taken care of? There shouldn't be any debate about that. It's to look after yourself and your family first, and then to try to look after other people. And if they've broken the law, maybe they don't make the cut. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, Delegate Karen Hamilton, who is new to the House of Delegates here in Virginia, one of the rising stars, it seems, joins us in just a couple of minutes to talk about her reaction to the State of the Union and Governor Spanberger's response. Next on the Reid Revolution. So I'm going to do the tickets when we come back. Welcome back on this Wednesday morning. I will tell you, I want to give away another pair of VIP tickets to this event that's taking place on Friday of this week at the Glen Allen Cultural Arts Center. It's the Virginia Forum, where Jamie Franklin will be our main speaker. And this is a continuation of a series of speakers who are coming from all across the country. Jamie is leading this movement of young women in their 20s, early 30s, who traditionally a lot of people have written them off and said, oh, they've all gone liberal. They've all gone with the Democrat Party. Not so fast, says Jamie Franklin. There are a lot of things that women are contemplating today before they make their alignment politically. And Jamie will be with us as the main speaker at the Virginia Forum on this Friday evening, starting 5:30, for the VIP reception that somebody's going to get to go to when we give away these tickets. So send me a quick note at thereidrevolution@gmail.com, thereidrevolution@gmail.com. The 10th person to send us an email that says tickets in the header, in the subject line, will get a pair of VIP tickets to join us at the Glen Allen Cultural Arts Center. And if you want to go, you just want to go ahead and buy the tickets, you don't want to do the email thing, you can go to thevirginiacouncil.org, thevirginiacouncil.org, and purchase tickets. There's a special deal, and students, if they sign up in advance, get free tickets to Jamie's talk this Friday. I'm excited. Riley Shia will be introducing Jamie, and then I'll get an opportunity to interview her live on stage. Should be a really nice evening. So make sure you're with us on Friday for the Virginia Forum at the Glen Allen Cultural Arts Center. We've been talking about President Trump's really remarkable speech last night, now record-holding State of the Union speech last night as far as time goes. And, he doesn't stick to the script. Then we talked about Abigail Spanberger's response, where she stuck to the script. And I didn't think it was a very good script, to be honest with you. I mean, I wasn't impressed. Wasn't awful, but I just didn't. The discordance between those of us in Virginia who are watching the Democrats propose 50-plus taxes and then her still getting up talking about affordability is just kind of breathtaking to me. But I should have learned a long time ago, the Democrats don't care. They will lie right to your face until you call them out, and then they'll lie some more. Karen Hamilton is the new delegate to the House of Delegates, and she joins us this morning. Good morning, Karen. I'm so glad to see you.
Good morning. Good to be here. Thanks for having me on.
You feeling good? It must, it's kind of rough to show up in the minority, and this is your first couple of months in the House of Delegates. What are you thinking?
Well, you're right. Everybody said I came in at the worst time, but God put you here for a reason. And I'm enjoying the process, but at the same time, it is disheartening to go in and just know that you are powerless to stop a lot of this legislation that we're seeing go through.
But the good thing is, and I watched you when you were campaigning, you're not a shrinking violet. You will get toe-to-toe with people and say what needs to be said. And I think that's what the Republican Party needs right now, especially with strong women who will speak up.
I agree. We need strong men and women that are just going to speak boldly and speak loudly, because right now in Virginia, conservatives are discouraged. They're feeling like we got pretty beat up in this past election. And we're at a moment right now where it's either lay it all on the line or we could be lost for, a few decades here in Virginia. And so you're right. We need strong voices, and I'm thankful to hopefully be stepping into that position and speak on behalf of conservatives.
Yeah, well, I'd have no doubt you're doing that. Now, you probably heard a little bit of what I was saying about the president's speech and the governor's response. Tell me what you were thinking last night. I assume you watched.
I did watch. It was a late night, but it was worth it. I mean, I think Trump delivered on the message. I liked the choices of his guests, the people he chose to highlight. I was pleasantly surprised that he invited Sage Blair, who was trafficked out of Virginia, out of Appomattox County, really, where she was struggling with her gender identification, and unfortunately, the schools kind of hid that from her parents. And so that was a great story to highlight and just reiterate that parents need to be involved in children's lives. And pretty discouraged to see Democrats sit down through all of these great speeches and not recognize some of the Americans that have been impacted by their policies, frankly. But that was to be expected, and I was glad to see Trump call them out. He didn't give them a pass while they just sat there sour-faced. He called them out for it. So I was really glad to see that. Spamberger, she kind of expected her to play. She came out and talked about affordability, which is laughable because as soon as they got power, you know what they did. They've tried to pass 50 plus new taxes, and that's not an affordability message.
I was kind of stunned. I mean, I guess I should have known that that's the card they're going to play. So regardless of what the situation is at the Virginia State Capitol or on the ground nationally, they're just going to keep repeating that. And probably this is the thing that bothers me, Karen, and I don't know whether you're seeing this up close with the negotiations, if there are any at the Capitol, is that I really do think these people will sabotage the Virginia economy and the American economy in order to win. And that troubles me. When Biden was president, I thought he was brain dead, and I never liked him, even when he was at the top of his game. And he had an office across the hall from mine when I worked in the U.S. Senate. So I saw him every day. And I could tell that he was in deep decline and barely able to function based on what I had witnessed. But I wouldn't ever wish ill on America in order to try to win politically. I might want to win, but not at the expense of the American people. And I don't think that's the mindset of this modern group of Democrats.
I agree. And it's, you and I are on the same page with that. It's kind of mind-boggling to think that you have people that will sacrifice their country, that will sacrifice their citizens that they're elected to represent, and just for political power. And we saw it last night when President Trump said, "Do you believe that your loyalty and priority should be for the American citizens?" And I mean, they sat down, as you said. It's unbelievable. They know that they need the illegal immigrants to continue to pour into our country. They need it for congressional numbers to gain as many seats as they can, and they want people to vote. So it is discouraging, and you do see it on the state level as well, because we've seen a handful of bills that's very much protecting illegal immigration.
Well, talk me through that, because the folks that we have had these conversations with at the Capitol, we've focused on gerrymandering, which I would like to get to with you. But tell me about that, because that's one of the things that I think is a linchpin to the Democrat takeover of America. And people who are really beating up on Trump, saying that this gerrymandering is a direct result of his actions. You need to back it up and get to the 50,000-foot level and realize the Democrats very cynically have exploited the laws and flooded certain areas of the country to artificially inflate the numbers and gain representation for people that with people who aren't supposed to be here in the first place. And until you recognize that, you don't get what's happening when it comes to the redistricting. But tell me about what you've witnessed related to illegals in Virginia.
Right. So, in Virginia, when you go to the DMV, you are automatically pretty much registered to vote. To my knowledge, I think it's like you check a box, and it may even be automatic when you get a license. So in Virginia, people can say what they want, but we have illegal immigrants voting. And we saw Democrats carry a bill, and it passed through the House, saying that ICE cannot get within, I believe it was 40 feet or something like that, of a polling location. Now, why would ICE come to a polling location to begin with? I've not seen that occur to begin with, but they want to make extra sure that ICE isn't showing up at polling locations. They've been telling us, for years that illegal immigrants are not voting, so this shouldn't be a problem, but they want to make sure that ICE isn't going there to arrest the illegal immigrants that aren't voting, wink, wink. But they've also tried to pass laws that, prevent ICE from cooperating with local law enforcement. They've made it so restrictive to where ICE had to, issue a list of who would be on a mission 7 days in advance. And it's just, they've hamstrung them to where they can't really do their job. Of course, they wanted to prohibit them from wearing the face coverings. We know that ICE is being doxxed right now. Their families are being put at risk for the job that they're doing. And so we just have seen very anti-law enforcement laws, in my opinion, go through. And I think Spamberger, she kind of prides herself on being pro law enforcement, but the legislation we're seeing go through is opposite of that.
Isn't that remarkable how she
Hmm.
constantly brings up whatever it is that she did at the Postal Service? I mean, I really don't know. And last year I was out there on the campaign trail for
Hmm.
10 months, and I couldn't tell you because nobody bothered to ask, what exactly did you do for the Postal Service? Did you
Right.
carry you say you carried a gun, but what did you do?
Hmm.
Made sure the
Hmm.
Christmas cards got through on time, or what were you doing? And then you would think that these leftists who throughout my entire life have hated the CIA. It's been
Hmm.
the source of every problem in the world is the American CIA, but they're really enthusiastic about a CIA officer, case officer. I don't know what again, does anybody care what she actually did for the CIA? But she constantly gets up and tries to wear the badge of
Right.
law enforcement while she and her people undercut law enforcement everywhere. So I call
Hmm.
BS on that. Tell me
Yep.
what you did and tell me why you're undercutting the cops and everybody
Right.
else in authority while you're
Hmm.
governor.
Hmm. Yes, and in addition to that, she came out last night and tried to basically say that Democrats are the party that's putting public safety first.
Mm.
Well, I'm sorry, that's news to me. In Virginia, we're seeing them try to reduce or eliminate mandatory minimums for violent criminals, rapists, child sex offenders. I mean, it's unbelievable that they can get on their high horse and act like they have been protecting Americans while she voted against the Lake and Riley Act when she was in Congress. So she is in no position to tell us that she cares about public safety. She also doesn't care if men waltz right into a female restroom. She's got 3 daughters in high school, and she has basically said she doesn't care.
Well, she's a radical on the trans issue. I mean, the
Yes.
stories I've heard about her in private meetings where she has, with a great deal of obscenity, cussed people
Mm,
out to advocate for the trans issue. And here I am, a gay guy, Karen, and I think this is
hmm.
insane that we're
Right.
that we're even indulging this. But she's a radical on that issue. Sad that we didn't expose her in public for the radical position she's having. But it does seem to me, and I want to be a fair person
Hmm.
in my analysis, but how long do you watch Democrats defend criminals and let criminals out in a revolving door environment, give them a second chance to get back out on the street and create more victims when we know from the data that the recidivism rate is significant, and we know that what they did in 2020 has already cost 50 plus lives of innocent people who've been murdered by people who were put back out on the streets?
Right.
How long do we let that happen before we say, even if we're trying to be fair and polite, you're on the side of the criminals? You're not on
Right.
the side of the people of Virginia or the American citizens.
Hmm.
Somebody's got to say it. I'm glad you're down there kind of fighting this, even though we don't
Right.
have the
And
votes to stop it.
I honestly believe that this is an issue that we need to make at the forefront of people's minds because, of course, the affordability is a winning message. People have to, live and earn money and be able to
Mhm.
afford things. But at the same time, public safety is just a basic understanding that we believe government ought to be providing and to some extent or allowing us to provide for ourselves via the Second Amendment. And what you see in Virginia is them trying to disarm law abiding Americans. And while they're letting criminals out of jail earlier, so they're endangering our communities and leaving us somewhat helpless to protect our own families. So it's a real reversal, and I believe Democrats would be in trouble if we would go more on the offense on that issue because the stats are there that they have just been an abysmal failure across the United States.
Now, I know gun rights are important to you personally, to your
Mhm.
husband, Cameron,
Right.
special forces and everything, and
Mhm.
to the people that you represent. What's happened at the Capitol so far that should be raising alarms for gun owners?
Sure. Well, they've got oh, it's a plethora of things, and after I get done discussing that a little bit, I had a good conversation believe it or not, with Abigail Spanberger at the governor's mansion, where I was able to press her a little bit on these gun issues, because you're right. For my district, this is one of the top concerns, is that our gun rights are being taken away.
Mhm.
But they're coming after, the assault weapons ban. That's what they like to call it, the assault weapons. They came after magazine capacity. I believe it's 10 rounds and under is allowed, and anything above that. They came after anybody under 21 is prohibited from carrying. So, that one really rubbed me the wrong way, because we have our young men and women being sent overseas to defend our nation, and then they come back to Virginia and they're unable to carry. That is just wrong, So,
Yeah, how about they lock up the people in Shockoe Bottom who shot 9 folks last weekend and killed 2 people in Shockoe Bottom, and make sure they don't get out of jail before you go after
that's right.
some, 18-year-old in the country who's never
Yeah.
harmed anybody. I would suggest you focus on enforcing the law with the violent criminals rather than the innocent citizens.
Yes, that's exactly my line of thinking as well. But Democrats don't think that way. They just think if we make it harder for everybody to get guns, then the criminals are
Mhm.
going to abide by those laws, and so it's
Yeah.
just it's just ridiculous. They also have some gun storage laws, as far as how you need to store your gun in your own home and things of that sort.
So the
I
woman
don't know
who is
how they're going to be able
threatened
to. Hmm.
the woman who is threatened by her ex-husband or an angry ex-boyfriend suddenly has to dig through a closet and find
That's
a
right.
safe and then load the gun while he's
Right.
breaking in the door. Thank you very much for looking out for women, Democrats. Really
Exactly.
appreciate that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the other thing is I don't know how they plan to enforce a lot of these laws. Who is going to know how you're storing your gun unless something occurs? But even even then, at a certain point, if a child comes into contact with a weapon, and we see maybe a handful of cases every year where a child is killed by getting their hands on a gun. But wow, that's punishment enough right there. Now we want to throw parents in jail for something like that. I just don't think it's the right approach. Most people that live in my community, they're teaching their children how to handle guns from a very young age, just like you
Right.
would many other dangerous tools. There's a way to handle it, and we need to focus on teaching our children these things, rather than restricting, like you said, the abused woman who just wants to protect herself, and doesn't want to fiddle around with the safe in the middle of the night.
Yeah. They're all about education when it comes to sticking a needle in your arm
Hmm.
or, some sort of illicit behavior like that. But then they want to mandate and ban things when it comes to constitutional rights, like your ability to defend yourself. And they
Right.
are making it an unsafe world for a lot of people, especially those who are marginalized and who may be in danger in this society. And
Hmm.
I'm going to speak up about it again as a part of the most hated minority group in the history of the world. I
Hmm.
want to have a gun, because if you come in my
Right.
house, you're going to have a problem. I'll tell you that right now. And
That's
if you're
right.
a woman who is abused by someone, you should be able to defend yourself. So
Hmm.
who's really looking out for women's rights and gay rights and other minority groups? The
Hmm.
Democrats who want to disarm you and put you in jeopardy, or people like me and you who want to make sure that you have a weapon if you should need it. God, hope you don't need it, but if you need it,
That's right.
it'll be there for you. I don't
Right.
want to run out of time, Karen, Delegate Karen Hamilton, new member
Mhm.
of the House of Delegates, without asking you what your take is on this gerrymandering situation. I think we have to prepare for a vote that will start maybe next week and run all the
Mhm.
way through April 21st. I think the Supreme Court's going to get involved in this. Do you agree? And what are you hearing on the ground?
I am hearing that we need to proceed forward as if nothing is going to happen.
Hmm.
It just is astounding to me that the Virginia Supreme Court has not weighed in on this, and I think it's tremendous judicial cowardice that they have not. There was clearly a violation of law in the process of getting to this point, and we've been told that no one is above the law, but we're seeing that that's not always the case. But I will say Virginians need to be prepared to vote, and the voting will start on March 6th, unless something else occurs between now and then. But everything I'm hearing on the ground is saying be prepared because this is happening.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'm so glad that we got to talk to you in person. Congratulations on being at the Capitol. I know you're a fighter, and that's what we need on the
I
Republican side
appreciate it.
down there. Yeah. Delegate
Thanks so
Karen
much,
Hamilton,
John.
thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, always. Call me again next time. All right, let's take a quick break. We will come back. Delegate Ren Williams joins us, and we'll go into more about the gerrymandering situation and the leftist Democrats who constantly talk about how they're going to defend democracy by smashing the rights of their neighbors to have a voice in Washington. That's their sense of defending democracy. Oh, okay. Why don't we chat about that and more clips from the State of the Union last night when we return on the Reid Revolution. Okay, we're back on this Wednesday morning on the Reid Revolution. I want to play a couple more clips from the State of the Union last night. And producer Dan was up late last night and early this morning trying to find some of the highlights of this stuff. I thought this was the line of the night. We'll play clip 8, producer Dan. I mean, Trump, he went, the beginning of the speech, he was on script. He's not the greatest when it comes to delivery of just a scripted speech, but he uses it in his best moments as a guideline, and then he kind of goes off. I would not want to be the guy running the teleprompter for Donald Trump. Donald Trump or Bill Clinton, I think it's a problem to be the teleprompter operator because you just never know where he's going to stop, where he's going to pick up, what he wants. But let's play this clip, which I thought was the highlight of Trump's kind of in-your-face attitude last night.
Who can believe that we're even speaking about things like this? 15 years ago, if somebody was up here and said that, they'd say, what's wrong with him? But now we have to say it because it's going on all over numerous states without even telling the parents. But surely we can all agree no state can be allowed to rip children from their parents' arms and transition them to a new gender against the parents' will. Who would believe that we're even talking about that? We must ban it, and we must ban it immediately.
Look at that. Look at those Democrats.
Look, nobody stands up. These people are crazy. I'm telling you. They're crazy. Amazing.
I mean, they are crazy. I'm telling you that. They're crazy. If you're out pimping this trans stuff, you're a nut. And I just don't know how to, and don't try to shut me down to talk about it. I'm one of the few people on the Republican side of the aisle who has every right and observation to offer to you to say, if you're pushing trans ideology, if you're actually talking about mutilating children and putting hormones in their body and blocking their normal adolescent development of their body, you're a nut and you should not be in elected office. And quite frankly, I don't think you should be a doctor. These crazy nutcases downtown in Richmond at the hospitals in Richmond who continue to push this garbage are harming people. We're going to look back, I think, in another, I hope it's not 10 years because there will be a lot of wrecked lives in 10 years. But thank God Trump said this in the speech. Somebody has to be bold enough to say it. This trans ideology is insanity. It's a factual lie. It's a biological lie. It's a scientific experimentation, kind of like Frankenstein's monster. That is what we're doing to children. I mean, I can't protect every dumb American and every dumb citizen who wants to mutilate their own body. I mean, I got a lot of opinions on that, but when you're 18, if you're paying for it yourself, I don't know. I mean, I would warn you against it based on what I've witnessed in my life. And I'm now at an age where I've seen a lot of bad stuff happen to a lot of people in the LGBTQ plus community. And a lot of it centers around this insanity with the trans community. I don't want to have anything to do with it. I think it is a major problem. I think it is hurting a lot of people. And thank God that Trump got up and off script, it seems, told people to their faces, these people are crazy, because they are. I mean, I've said that to some friends of mine, like, man, you're ruining everything. All of the acceptance that gay men and women have gained in society, because the message and the behavior should have been, we're normal people who just want to live normal lives. You're ruining it all because you're exposing that message as a lie with this behavior. It's so politically stupid and harmful that somebody had to stand up and say that. I think that's really important. Now, let me just play one more thing before we get to Delegate Williams. Here's Ilhan Omar heckling Trump last night. Now, look, I've traveled around the world. I hate keep bringing it up. 116 different countries. I've been in India. I've been in Iran. I lived in the Middle East. I don't have a reflexive negative reaction to people who don't dress like me and don't look like me. I don't. But I can tell when somebody is not looking out for the best interest of the American people, when they're in the room for some other reason, that their motivation is not in our best interest, not necessarily looking out for me, but not in our best interest. This woman is a problem. And I was so thankful. It's ugly, but it's true that President Trump called out the Somalians who have been robbing us blind. And the fact that Ilhan Omar is bold enough to sit in the House of Representatives and mouth off to the president, God, I mean, I'm not normally going to say this kind of stuff, but she needs to go. She needs to go. She is not looking out for the people of the United States of America. She is a foreign agent in our midst, and there are probably a bunch of them, and I think we need to be looking out for that. Now, I mean, I hate to even bring this kind of thing up because we should have been smart enough how we filter in the people who come into America. Yes, I said it, filter people in. Everybody does not get to come here. Everybody does not get to be a citizen. Everybody does not get to join the club. No, you do not. If you don't want to assimilate into our society, you're not coming here. If I had my way. And she is the example of why we need to be much more diligent and thoughtful about who we put in our midst, because a few people like this will rob you, they'll steal from you, they will undermine your culture, they'll collapse your society. Look at this woman mouthing off from her seat at the event last night, the State of the Union.
You should be ashamed of yourself not standing up. You should be ashamed of yourself. That is why I'm also asking you to end deadly sanctuary cities that protect the criminals and enact serious penalties for public officials who block the removal of criminal aliens. In many cases, drug lords, murderers all over our country, they're blocking the removal of these people out of our country, and you should be ashamed of yourself.
Yeah, she should be ashamed. Her people have robbed America of billions of dollars, and there's not 1 second of self-reflection about that. Not one apology like, oh, this doesn't represent us. No, it's a total denial of what is true, which is you're robbing us. And he is correct. And I hate to be the one to tell you this, but I have credibility to talk about it. In the rest of the world, Western values about not stealing, and that's tenuous too, but a handshake deal, a contractual obligation, the rules that we obey about graft and corruption being wrong, They don't apply overseas. I'm telling you, I've witnessed it firsthand. Look at the scandals about the Olympics. Look at the scandals about the United Nations. The rest of the world operates on graft and corruption. We have been lucky that that's a very small part of what we have traditionally done. And we're losing that part of our culture because people like this are now involved in it. Have you heard her apologize? Have you heard her say, oh, wow, you've raised a very important issue here. We need to get to the bottom of this, and we will not tolerate the abuse? No, because she wants the abuse. This is part of her culture. This is part of what they want. And she needs to go. She needs to go. I was really glad she was so stupid as to be combative last night. She should be apologizing. And if she really wanted to gain credibility, she should be one of the leaders within her own community to say, we will not tolerate abuse. But see, they lie right to your face, and they'll continue to steal from you, and they'll continue to denigrate America because they hate America. That's one of the problems, I think. You can acknowledge that we have issues in the country and be trying to fix them. But if you arrive in the United States House of Representatives or the United States Senate with an attitude that America is the problem and you want to denigrate or collapse America, I have no time for you. You know, it's like the people who send me emails that say, you know, I hate you, John. I didn't vote for you, John. You're a horrible person, John. Then I'm not really interested in your critique. I mean, you're not looking out for my best interest. You've acknowledged you hate me. Good. I'm glad you started with that. Then I won't bother to read your critique because it's not an objective critique. You're not trying to make me better. You're trying to tear me down. So it's cool. Thank you for starting your email with that line because now I will hit delete because I'm not interested in the damn thing you have to say. If you start out with like, oh, I watched you on television, I watched you on radio, I watched the campaign, here's what I agree with, here's what I don't agree with, that is an honest interaction that is important to me. I can take critique, but I'm not going to take critique from somebody who doesn't have my best interest at heart. And that's what you're getting from that woman and the people that she surrounds herself with. They are not looking out for you or for me or for the country at large. They hate the United States. And I'm glad Trump called her out right to her face. I only wish he'd said, we got a plane. We can get you the hell out of here if that's what you'd like, lady. Because I think that's what needs to happen. Seriously. All right. Delegate Ren Williams is at the Capitol right now and has stepped out from some of his meetings to join us. And Ren, I appreciate the chance to talk to you. I assume you watched this thing last night. You watched the governor's response. What's your snap take on what you saw?
I mean, what's been bothering me about this governor and also like the Democratic Party here recently is all of their like hypocrisy when it comes to gaslighting us. And like my biggest issue, obviously Trump killed it and the heckling is terrible. But I'm getting ahead of myself. You can't shame a Democrat because they don't have shame. You have to embarrass them. And that's hard too. But if you embarrass them enough, the rest of the people will start seeing, the emperor does not have clothes. And that's what I think the Americans and independents are picking up. Because you can only tell me that you're providing affordability so many times. And then I hear 50 new taxes so many times before credibility starts eroding. And so I think that is what Spanberger did last night because she was talking to a national audience and she wants to be the nominee for president. And so that is what her messaging set up. She's trying to carry on the affordability arguments. She asked something to the effect of like, is Donald Trump providing lower prices or lower costs for America? And it's like, lady, you and your people have proposed 50 new taxes. And those are just the taxes, John. Those aren't the unfunded, self-funded mandates.
Right. Self-funded is their new term.
Employer told the taxes that they put on our payroll for Virginia paid medical leave and family leave. It's billions of dollars. It is 75 million just to set up one of them. It is another 14 positions to maintain one, over $300,000 just to set up another bureaucracy that is going to control and hand out welfare to people who ask for it based on the taxes that you and me pay, John.
Yeah, for her to get up and begin with an attack on affordability after she and her party winning in November and showing up in January with all of these tax increases and these programs that inevitably will either cost businesses money, or here's the worst case scenario for you and for me, they leave and they don't come back. You know,
Yeah,
Boeing has already pulled out of
Boeing,
Virginia.
Boeing's gone. Boeing's gone. We've got notices about data centers stopping because of the data center tax and the tax that they're doing. We've got notices that basically anybody who could pull out right now is thinking about it. The only ones who haven't are the ones who are committed, and they're not willing to continue to invest until we figure out what's going on here, because it is millions and billions of dollars in taxes on these massive corporations. Think about it. Even a 10% tax on income for anybody who makes over $1 million. It's like there's like a 6% over anybody who makes 500,000. So like, why would an executive want to move a massive industry to here and then live here? And he can't live in Maryland, can't live in West Virginia. Like, it's not a good play. We have heard them say, we're going to Texas now. We're going to North Carolina. We're going to Tennessee.
Right. Yeah.
We have heard this. This is
they can
words
fly in and out of the
people's
state
mouths
anytime they want to, so they don't have to. They don't have to have a place in Alexandria or Arlington. The weather's better in Florida. The weather's better in Texas, and they get to keep more of their money. And they fly into D.C. to talk to the legislators when they need to. And why would they stay? You know, it was weird, Ren. When I was running, I met privately with a lot of C-suite executives, some CEOs, some vice presidents who deal with government affairs. And a lot of them said, look, we've got a team working right now to create an exit plan if the Democrats win and they push through the craziest ideas. Let's hope they don't win, and let's hope they don't push through the craziest plans. Well, they won, and they showed no hesitation in pushing through the most expensive welfare programs, which everybody's so excited. Oh, you're going to look after the people. But the consequence is going to be a lot of your constituents will lose their jobs, and these businesses will disappear and not come back.
And we've seen this before. They won't hire. Think about how many people who work 36 hours a week, so they don't qualify for health insurance. Think about how many people are now part-time. They can't get a full-time job, so they don't have to pay benefits. That's what bothers me about the Democrats and their policy making, is because they literally don't care about unintended consequences. And they don't have principles and like values that are cohesive across the whole party. So you have half of them saying eliminate mandatory minimums, and then you got the rest of them saying let's increase firearm penalties, 44 new laws against it. So they want to let out non-law abiding criminals, convicts, early, and then they want to lock up the law abiding citizens who are just trying to exercise their Second Amendment rights. It's very frustrating.
It's a crisis, and I hope all the Republicans, and I say this, I don't want to sound bitter, but all the people who didn't vote last year for whatever reason, they didn't care, they didn't like me, they didn't like Winsome or Jason, I don't know, they just thought Trump had it. If they don't go vote this April 21st, assuming that we have this gerrymandering referendum where the Democrats are trying to steal votes and smash the voices of Republicans all across the state, unless you live out in Southwest Virginia. And even then, you're only going to have one person voting your opinion, no coalition to build in Washington. If you don't go vote this April 21st, I mean, you're just giving it up. You're giving it up. What do you think's going to happen here in Virginia?
Yeah, people are like, Virginia's so purple, it'll swing back, it'll swing back. Well, not if you have a Democratic trifecta that is going to lock in the biggest unconstitutional power grab ever to the point where you won't be able to do anything. And they're going to succinctly, inherently end any conservative representation, Republican representation in Virginia. Look at all of the other states who have already done this. They had this. There's a reason why the Democrats are so mad about like Trump starting this is because they don't have any locations to gerrymander more. That's why they're having to come undo. Bingo. Trump didn't start this. Trump is just saying, we're going to use your playbook now. And they are freaking out about it. And now they're having to literally break our Constitution just to try to remedy this because they're locked out of every other state.
Well, I've been following you on social media, and I think it's great that you're being as bold as you are, the videos you're putting out, the content you're putting out. You think that this is going to go forward at the end of next week? Do you think the Supreme Court steps in and says, this is moving?
Yeah, because there's too much pressure, and now the Attorney General has filed, so you got two cases pending in front of the Supreme Court now, both sort of alleging the same thing, which is important that they are stopping the preparation for early voting. And now, I don't know if you've heard this, and I'm sorry if it's getting loud, but I'm not sure if you heard this. The Board of Elections from Elect has now instructed all the localities to continue forward in preparing for the election, even though there is a court order in place. The Electoral Board has said that court order stops us, the Board of Elections, not our employees or our agents at the local level. How does that work, John? Makes no sense.
Yeah. I saw that yesterday, and I wondered if something had changed, or was this just the bureaucracy choosing not just to stick their middle finger up at the judge? I would think the judge would have a problem with that.
Yeah, it is. It's very problematic. And that's actually what we've seen in other states. Basically, in 2020, I had the same issue where the state was telling some localities or some registrars, yeah, you can reach out and cure their ballot, but the law said you could not do that. And so people who were following the law didn't, and those happen to be in Republican conservative counties, and those who didn't follow the law were reaching out to people for 45 days saying, hey, you didn't sign your ballot, that kind of thing. Normally those would just be rejected. The Democrats here in Virginia have tried to and are going to implement the same thing, which is the ability to cure post-election. It's just crazy, John. And we just have to keep calling it out like Donald Trump did last night.
Now, I know you got to go, but let me ask you real quick about the statues. You were one of the few people at the entire Capitol when I was so irate that the Democrat Taliban warriors were tearing down and destroying artwork, tombs, memorials, statues all across the Commonwealth. You were willing to stand up against that. What's going to happen? Those three statues that currently stand in Capitol Square are probably coming down. I don't see any way around it, right?
They're gone. They're so gone. Yeah, there's nothing stopping these guys. I tried to put in a bill that struck a compromise that said, like, okay, sure, if you want to take them down, if that's what you guys want to do, that's fine. But they are pieces of art. This is somebody created this. Let's give it to an organization that just has and acknowledges the history of it. That's all. You can send it to a battlefield. We literally pay millions of dollars for our battlefields in the Civil War. How is it any different?
And they won't agree to that.
Nah, not at all. They immediately lambasted me as a racist that was trying to instill, the lost cause and Southern heritage and stuff like that. And I'm an Appalachian boy from Patrick County. Like, we were in the mountains. We're not, we were trying to survive. Like, we weren't out there fighting in the Civil War.
Yeah, the Taliban is on the march. It's just not in Afghanistan anymore. It's Democrats in Virginia, and they want to destroy and erase anybody they don't like, and they're not interested in intellectual conversation or discussion. They're going to blow up and destroy anything, melt down and chop up anything they don't like. And I've got to put that label on them. And I know it infuriates them, but that's what they're doing. They're emulating the worst behavior of the barbarians on the other side of the planet. So I'm proud of
Yeah.
you, and I
Let,
appreciate
let,
that you've been willing to stand up against it. Thank you for that.
Thank you, John. If you got like 2 more minutes, I'd like to touch on one thing. First,
Yeah,
I
please.
do want to say you did a heck of a job. You did a heck of a job in your election or campaign run. I hope that you will
Thank you.
keep it up. Keep being a conservative voice for us because you nailed it. You were out there. You worked really hard. Like I've seen politicians, and you worked really hard. So I'm proud of you about that. And then second of all, I just wanted to touch on this other thing that Spanberger said. She said, "Is Trump keeping Americans safe?" What? Lady, get out of here. Are you kidding me? You are disarming every single member. Like they are wiping out concealed carries. How is
Right.
that going to keep a mother who has a stalker ex-boyfriend and her child safe? It
Right.
won't, lady. And all of the other things that you are removing our ability to defend ourselves, at the same time eliminating our law enforcement officers from eradicating the worst illegal immigrant in our state out of here? Lady, what?
Yeah.
No, it does not work like that. Stop gaslighting me. Stop calling that out and stop being a hypocrite. Tell the truth, get in here and make some policy. That's not what they want to do. They just want to gaslight, use their talking points, and it doesn't match.
While she claims to be
I,
ex-law enforcement,
even,
it's unbelievable.
even even Attorney General, Mr. Speed Racer Jay Jones said that he is immediately appealing the redistricting decision. Okay,
Yeah.
so the first thing you're going to do to uphold the law is you're going to fight a unconstitutional battle. The second thing that he has done is he just signed on suing the EPA to restore the $7 billion quote solar for all program. How is that keeping Virginians safe? It's not. And it's bothersome that they sell this to their people who gobble it up. And my argument is it's not affordability. It's affordability in a vacuum. Sure, they're going to raise your minimum wage so you get a bigger paycheck. But you know what else they're causing to go up? Electric utility rates with all their energy policies, all the taxes. They wanted to tax your dog walker. I don't have a dog walker, but I certainly don't want to spend a couple extra dollars on tax in order to pay the $20 or whatever to have them hang out with my dog for an hour. That's crazy, John. And they are wholeheartedly, fully behind it. And I am beginning to think that all of these flaws in their bills are not flaws, they are features. And that is something that I'm concerned about, truly,
Ren,
because the
what they've
unintended
said to me
consequences are
is
ramifications.
that affordability doesn't mean what you and I think affordability means. It is creating programs
Right.
that will make it more affordable for certain people in society while we tax other people, and that is the new justice that you're going to see in America. I want everybody to be able to afford whatever they want based on the money they bring
Yeah.
in and how they save it, where they spend it. That's not their concept. It's a totally different concept than the way you and I live our lives. So you got to know
Yeah.
that.
And we could do this all day, but
Yeah.
let me say one more thing, because you mentioned it earlier about how the Western culture, the mindset of the West, is so much different from the illegal immigrant mindset that we have. If you look at all across Europe right now, they are eradicating their refugees as hard as they can because of these issues. And then if you look at New York, have you seen in New York City? They are playing the prayers from the bell towers now. I have seen entire communities shut down and get in the middle of the street and start praying on their knees during, like, in the road, in traffic. But if you talk to other individuals from those countries who don't agree with these people, they say they don't do that in the middle of the streets over there. They would get run out of the middle of the streets. This is intentional, John, and you know that. So I'm gonna let you go. This has been great, man. I
It is
appreciate you letting me come
intentional.
on.
And as someone who's lived in the Middle East and has a lot of friends still in that part of the world, I hate to be the one to tell you this, and it doesn't make me feel good to tell you this. We are being overtaken, and it's going to require a certain type of strong, thoughtful leadership to call out the bad behavior that infringes on other people's rights. And the reflexive answer is going to be you're racist, you're an Islamophobe, you hate other people who don't look like you. That is not true. But I do know what has happened in other parts of the world, and we have to be determined not to allow that to occur here. That type of oppression, which comes from people who are hyper aggressive. We can't let that happen here. And these people would be acting differently if it was Christian evangelical leaders who were trying to force their opinions on them. They have no problem calling out a Jerry
Right.
Falwell or a Pat Robertson, but for some reason, they feel like
Yep.
they have to cater towards religious leaders of another religion. I'm not putting up with it. Just not. And you can call me whatever you want.
Yeah.
So. Ren Williams.
Suicidal
delegate.
empathy.
Yeah.
Suicidal empathy.
You got it. I appreciate the chance to talk to you. I hope I'll see you in person real soon. Thank you, Ren.
Thanks, John. Have a great day.
Thank you. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll come back. I want to give out some more tickets to Jamie Franklin, 2 more VIP tickets to the Jamie Franklin speech at the Virginia Forum this Friday. That's coming up when we return. Producer Dan joins me. We'll go through a few more of the clips from both President Trump and from Governor Spanberger last night when we return on the Reid Revolution. All right, we are back, and producer Dan always joins us at the end of the program for our final segment to kind of make sure we haven't missed anything. I want to tell you, I appreciate the fact that you stayed up till 1 o'clock in the morning last night.
I was up till almost 3 a.m. in the morning last night, actually. Yeah.
Were you really?
Yeah.
Not just watching the speech, but what did you think, producer Dan? What was your reaction?
I thought it was at least a home run last night for President Trump, if not a grand slam. I think that it was a very well calculated address on his part. Clearly decided to delineate between himself and the leftists on the other side of the aisle, called them out, kind of made them not really stand. I'd say stand to be accounted for, but or as it were, sit and be accounted for. But yeah, that one moment, which I don't think we've played yet. Maybe we should, where he said, stand up and be accounted for. If you agree with this statement, stand up.
Let's play that one. That was probably, besides these people are crazy, that was probably the other highlight of the speech.
These people are crazy. Let's see here.
Play it.
Let's see if I have this. Where is it here? Tell me I do have it here, right?
I thought you did.
Oh, hold on. I thought I did. Did I not somehow?
Oh,
hold on.
That was one of the things you highlighted.
I'm looking for. Yeah, I'm looking for. Hold on. Did I had a ton of clips. I have it. I may just have to go back and get it. Oh my gosh.
Well, for folks who didn't sit through the whole thing
it.
last night, there was a moment where the president stood and said, I want you to stand up if you agree with this statement. The priority of the government is to protect the American citizens, not to protect illegal aliens. And Republicans leapt to their feet. I mean, it's just such a basic question. And the fact that that's not something the Democrats can agree with. I mean, you can have a concept in your head that you want to be fair with other people. You can believe, and I've changed on this. I used to be a big international, like, oh yeah, we need to, we're wealthy, we can afford to prop up and help other countries get out of poverty. Then I lived long enough to watch the corruption, to watch the people who were running the programs become rich, and I started to travel around the world, and I realized, oh my God, we're spending billions of American taxpayer dollars, and we're not moving the needle. We're not pulling people out of poverty because their government doesn't want them to. They are siphoning money off of the donations that we're making. And the people who run these programs with USAID, and it hurts me to say this because I was a big believer in USAID, and when I went to Baghdad during the war, guess what? It was with a group that was funded by USAID. And I did the best I could. I went over there and people said, don't go because you could get killed. And I said, well, I didn't get to join the Marines when I was 21 years old, so this is my way of taking the chance that something bad's going to happen to me and trying to stand up for freedom and for America, so I'm going to go do it. And everybody said, don't go, don't go. I went anyway. But that was a USAID program. But really, you start to get some years on you, and you realize, holy cow, we're getting fleeced here. Meanwhile, some of these countries are building amazing airports with water fountains and terrarium and botanical garden where you can ride around in a little boat. They're building these amazing structures with our money, and they're living, their poor people are still poorer than dirt, but they are building the infrastructure of the society that we think we're living in. I mean, I'll tell you what, you want to realize how we have been screwed over? Go over to Southeast Asia and look at the infrastructure around the big airports and government buildings, and then look at what we're dealing with here. That's our money. That's our money. And we have created a welfare state, quite frankly, where we don't go to the moon anymore. We don't fund, maybe we'll go to the moon, later this year or next year? We're going to go fly around the moon in April, I think. But I think somebody, some idiot, a Democrat, a leftist, decided that it was more important to create a welfare state and funnel all of our money to the welfare state, which I hate to tell you is a dead end. We have not become the great society that Lyndon Johnson envisioned, and we have lost our way. Check out, this is one of the great things about Instagram. Check out all the stuff they're doing in China. They treat their people like garbage, but they are the advanced society now. I hate to tell you this. Now, they're stealing things from Americans. They're stealing from American companies. There's lots of corruption, but we are falling behind. And I think Trump is the first leader I've seen in my lifetime who recognizes this dynamic and is trying to break it up and stop it and be patriotic and say, we have got to reclaim being the cutting edge of technology and the cutting edge of science. And that means American citizens are going to have to pay for their own bills. They're going to have to make their own decisions. We're going to use the resources that come through taxes to elevate the society, not to send welfare checks to individual people who won't get out of bed until noon. And this is the clip that I think he started to lay that groundwork, at least when it comes to illegal aliens. That's not even talking about lazy citizens who won't do things. This is about people who shouldn't be here in the first place. You got it?
You agree with this statement, then stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens.
Look at them. Really, they are not standing up for American citizens. They're always going to side with the illegals. They're always going to side with illegals and criminals and people who are undermining America. That's why you can't put these people in charge. Oh my God, we got 4 years of this in Virginia. Look at Trump.
Yeah, that's the proper response. It's not like he said. It's not even though as though he said, stand up if you don't care about these people. Yeah, so he said.
It was a
just
positive
stand up
about
if you agree that the first priority ought to be the people who are the citizens of this country. That is the lowest common denominator. That is not hard, and they couldn't do it.
Yeah,
they wouldn't do it.
And you start extrapolating it out. If you're trying to understand what's happening, it would be like someone saying, "You are responsible for yourself and your family." Can you agree with that? You are responsible for yourself and your family, your spouse, your husband, your wife, and your kids. That's your primary responsibility in life. Do you agree or disagree? Are we that confused? Hell yeah, that is your primary responsibility. Especially, I'm going to revert to traditional gender roles. If you are the male, you should feel that obligation. You may have something worked out. Maybe your wife is pulling in more money than you are. I'm not trying to micromanage that. You got to make it work. But you and your spouse are responsible for your family before a government program, before anybody else. That's your responsibility. And it seems like that's just confusing. Like the fundamentals of a strong, stable society are not even agreed upon anymore. I mean, we cannot survive if you can't stand for that and if you don't feel that obligation every day for yourself.
Well, as is well known, I'm a card carrying member of Steeler Nation. I mean, it'd be like asking Steelers fans stand up if you agree that you want the Steelers to score more points than the opponent, and then half the people in a room of Steelers fans didn't stand up. Like, what? Wait, I thought you were fans of this team.
Kind of.
It's like I thought you believed that.
They're
I
not
thought
Steelers. You're missing.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not Steelers.
Well, that's my point.
Yeah.
That's my point. Is it? You're not really a fan.
They're not on our side. And I don't know what it takes for you to realize that. When they tax the people who are bringing in the money, when they tax the people who are up at 6 o'clock in the morning trying to get their kids ready for school, and then they're going to go work a 10-hour day, 12-hour day, when they tax and burden the working people and send that money to people who aren't working, when they create programs that subsidize illegal immigration at the cost of the citizens who are actually paying into the system, and it's not a tiny thing, it's a huge thing, and we don't have enough money to build and create schools that actually educate kids. You know, in the city of Richmond, a couple of years ago, they didn't have enough money to put the toilet paper in the boys' bathroom, but they had millions of dollars to tear down statues. Now, I mean, that is fiscal irresponsibility. So, I mean, everywhere I look where Democrats are in charge, they make these types of decisions that are bad financial decisions. Just, you know, if you take the personalities and the emotion out of it, they're bad financial decisions. And they side with illegals and they side with criminals.
Yep.
Recognizing that that's not necessarily the same thing, but even in Richmond, you had 9 people shot in one night, 2 people dead in one shooting. Then you had a stabbing down the street, and no one's calling for the chief prosecutor to lose her job. No one holds anybody accountable for anything in the city of Richmond. Their reflexive response is that we've got to get rid of guns, instead of, no, you need to lock up the bad guys. And they just won't do it. So, you know, I am so thankful when Alonzo and I moved back to Richmond, or when I moved him here to take the job at the radio station, we discussed living in the city of Richmond. I love Richmond. I mean, I used to feel like Richmond could be a great place. I'm kind of concerned that I mean, I guess something can always come from the ashes, but I just think the place is in big, big trouble and has been for a while and just keeps getting worse. I'm so thankful we don't live in the city of Richmond, because people like us would be the people who are robbed by taxes to accommodate the bad guys. And people like us would be the folks who are attacked in the middle of the street, and no one cares about us. They care about protecting street thugs. And I'm sorry, I completely reject that. Completely reject that. And that's on steroids all across America. And Trump called it out last night. I'm glad he did.
Well, there was one more substantive clip that I had from his speech. An aside about the SAVE Act and voter ID. I thought I'd play that really fast.
Yeah.
Both Republicans and Democrats overwhelmingly agree on the policy that we just enunciated. And Congress should unite and enact this common sense, country-saving legislation right now, and it should be before anything else happens.
These are the people who want to cheat, who were sitting there.
Yeah, look at this.
Vindman, that slob.
Vindman, yes. The holier than thou, Vindman.
Yeah, traitorous slob.
And the reason they don't want to do it Why would anybody not want voter ID? One reason, because they want to cheat. There's only one reason.
That's right.
Here, here.
They make up all
Here,
excuses. They say it's racist. They come up with things. You almost say, what imagination they have. They want to cheat. They have cheated. And their policy is so bad that the only way they can get elected is to cheat. And we're going to stop it. We have to stop it, John.
I love it.
Calling out John Thune. Did you hear that?
I love it. Yeah.
They do want to cheat. If
Yep.
you didn't want to cheat, then you would be responsible and you would get in here and say, what are the reasonable things that every society does to make sure that we know who is showing up to vote and that we are 100% confident that these individuals are citizens who have the right to vote one time in one place in each election. And the Democrats fight like crazy. And I want to arm this audience with material that you can make the argument yourself when this comes up. Never forget that here in Virginia, when Glenn Youngkin was governor, the Democrats fought him when it was discovered that there were over 1,000 people who self-identified as illegal who were on the voter rolls. And as a responsible governor, Glenn Youngkin said, we're going to remove those names from the voter rolls. And the Democrats fought it all the way to the Supreme Court. They're trying to cheat. They want to create an environment in which someone who wants to break the law can cheat on their behalf. You know, I don't know if Abigail Spanberger would personally cheat. I hope not. I'm not 100% confident in that, but I would hope not. I don't know. I'm not going to go through and indict people just based on my instinct. But I can tell you, I'm not going to be a part of a party that is deliberately trying to create an environment and a set of rules that allow mass cheating if somebody chooses to do it. No. And good for Trump for calling that out. I don't want to, I know we got to go in a second, but did you have some more Spanberger clips?
We have three Spanberger
well,
clips. Yeah, we should get to
Let's play
them.
a couple of those before we go.
Yeah, here is the opening where she had 3 questions for those watching her.
Brilliant. Glad you got that.
The American people watching at home, 3 questions. Is the president working to make life more affordable for you and your family? Is the president working to keep Americans safe both at home and abroad? Is the president working for you?
I think it's yes, yes, yes.
That's my answer.
I mean,
What
you
did they
know,
say?
I
Don't
have
ask.
to tell you, her speech was not good.
No,
She
it was
wasn't
not.
awful. She was, I mean, in all fairness, she was not awful. I don't think she's a great speaker, but she's not a terrible. I've seen some Democrats who are terrible speakers. She wasn't awful, but the speech was not good. Like, that's the stupidest thing you could start with. I know, you know, her team, assuming she and her team wrote the speech, I'm not sure that's true. I think probably she was handed a speech by the National Democrats, I think. I'd like to know that. Who actually wrote this speech? The Spanberger team or the DC team? They think they've got to get out of their own bubble. And I tell this to Republicans all the time, too. You got to get out of your own bubble, and you got to make sure that you speak in a way that doesn't just talk to your base. I'm aware of that on this program. You know, I don't want to just speak to Republicans. I'd like to figure out a way that we could win over some people. But those 3 questions, you have to be TDS, Trump Derangement Syndrome rabid, to think he's not trying to lower prices for people. Of course he is. Now, you could argue about whether it's happened or not. I think we could point out some data, as the president did, that it is working. And then, do you think he's trying to keep us safe? Hell yeah. A lot better than Biden. I mean, Biden was inviting in the criminals with no checks. Biden was allowing chaos and murder around the world. Biden was terrible when it came to protecting Americans, domestically or internationally. And then, do you think he's working for you? Yeah, I am so much happier knowing that Donald Trump, even with his personality, is the guy in the White House compared to a Joe Biden or a Hillary Clinton or any of these. Yeah. It's all theatrics and lies.
It really did feel like a kind of a groupthink speech communications speech writing exercise there. I mean, and
Group
again,
think to the Democrats.
yes,
They're not
yeah,
even
yeah, yeah.
war-
It's
they're
like
not-
it's like, what do you guys think? Oh yeah, that's great. Yeah, he's like, yeah, we all answered that question. No, it's like,
Now, did you see the comment that just came up on the screen? You and I discussed it last night
about the canned applause.
What do you think when you watched it back? And I watched a little bit of it this morning. I felt like maybe they had a sign that said "applaud, stop."
Yeah.
applaud,
Well,
stop, because it just was weird.
Well, it reminded
Something
me
weird.
of a movie that's a favorite of my dad's and mine, and I'm sure you've never
Here's the
seen
movie
it.
reference.
Major
Hold on.
League,
We're
1988's
1
Major
hour
League
and
about the
35
Cleveland
minutes.
Indians.
1 hour
the
and 35
woebegone-
minutes into the show.
That's right.
We
That's
finally
right.
get a movie reference.
I tried to find this clip because I love it so much. But the opening of the movie, the new owner of the Cleveland Indians, when they were just at their absolute bottom, just valley as a franchise, comes in and just says something like, "Welcome to another season of Indians baseball," and the boardroom is just like. It just reminded me of that. This applause that just sounded so pathetic compared to what you would get in a full House of Congress, even with half the House sitting on their hands.
I wondered whether there was some sort of enhancement, either a tape of applause, because it went up and stopped so quickly that I thought that was odd. I mean, it's not the biggest thing in the world, but there was something.
I think I
weird
would have just
about the
done
whole
without the
situation.
applause altogether. It just in no way, shape, or form was that going to come off in any sort of impressive way. It was going to pale in comparison to the spectacle of being in Congress and having hundreds of people applauding your every.
There was
every
something
sentence.
weird about it. They didn't
Yeah.
use Williamsburg effectively, probably because they hate Williamsburg.
No, it
I mean,
looked to
let's
me
be
almost like
honest.
a green screen. That was the thing that struck me, and it may not have been, but at least on my phone screen as I was watching, I was like, "Is this a green screen?" It just
they-
seemed so.
There was no
banal.
lighting. I mean,
Yeah.
this is the minutia of it as a comms guy who would try
Yeah.
to do the staging of things. Like I helped do the World War II memorial event, and you've got to worry about how stuff looks. I thought it looked really dumpy, and
Yeah.
it was a nice idea to go to Williamsburg, even though you hate colonial America and you hate George Washington and Thomas Jefferson because they
Right.
had slaves. You're going to invoke their names. It was interesting when I was talking to producer Dan at 1:00 in the morning. We both commented that it's so weird to see modern day Democrats who are schizophrenic on this. They hate the
Yes.
founding fathers, but boy, they are happy to talk about the founding fathers if they think it will gain them some credibility. What do you think the founding fathers would say if they came back to life today and looked at Abigail Spanberger? And not just that it's a woman
Nothing,
who's
not
the
a
governor.
single thing complimentary. I mean, they'd reserve a fair amount of criticism for modern day Republicans. Don't get me wrong, but they wouldn't have a single good thing to say about modern day Democrats. Not a single good thing.
I mean, we overthrew the British because they were oppressive of the people and there was an extra tea tax.
Yeah,
And yet this
Yeah, just
lady's up there
imagine.
talking about affordability with 50 plus new taxes
just
and regulations.
imagine if they saw the litany of taxes that the Virginia General Assembly
I
is
think they'd
proposing
start
this session.
killing people.
I think you're right. I
You'd
think
say
they'd hang
that.
them. I think they'd hang them. I really do. I think they absolutely would. And
I think it's an interesting question how they would respond to Donald Trump too. I don't know. I mean, I think everybody believes that back in colonial
Mm-hmm.
times, everyone was prim and proper, and
No,
I don't know. They
No.
might actually
No.
like the bluntness of Trump. I don't know.
Well, yeah. If you think that's true, take a spin down memory lane about the election of 1800. It was pretty caustic, but and I actually love the fact that it was. It shows me that these folks were that invested in the principles. But just to be fair, I mean we're being critical of aspects about the setup for Spanberger and Williamsburg. We both complained that we thought that Trump's microphone was over-processed last night. I don't know how that happens. Like there was something wrong with his microphone last night. The sound wasn't very good. I think we were saying that the microphone was too much in front of his face and not below his face enough. That
Yeah,
these
I'm
sorts
just
of things,
telling
these
you,
details.
Reagan
Yeah.
was the guy. Reagan and his team, and I saw these people up close at the end.
Yeah.
They did. I mean, every little detail.
Little
They would
detail.
stand there. We would stand. I mean, I was the intern, but we would stand in the back of the room, and we would look and say, "What needs to change?" What?
Right.
When he stand, and then I was a little taller than Reagan, but I was often the stand-in guy who would go stand behind the podium, and they would adjust, like, all right, this is how this is going to look when he stands there. How are we going to do this?
Yeah.
And Trump's people aren't the best at that, if I'm being honest. They don't. I mean, they're under fire beyond belief, so they're lucky they can even get on the air. But there's some things that they could do. How about John McGuire last night? John McGuire? I thought John McGuire was going to hop on Trump's back and ride him around, ride around with him in the chamber.
Well, we like John. We like John, but we were not at all surprised to see that he found a way to say hi to the president.
He was there when the president came in.
Yep.
And he was right there when the president left. Oh, hey.
Yeah.
I mean, he did get a word in, and he got a selfie with him. So okay, people saw you. I just find that to be. I mean, I think John, in all fairness to John McGuire, I think he can call the White House, and I do think someone will pick up and talk to him. I don't know if it's Trump.
He has been a diehard Trump supporter.
Yeah,
absolutely, been with the president through thick and thin. And,
but boy, that was interesting to see. Well, I thought Trump did a good job. The people who hate him are going to hate him regardless of what he says. Of course, I found this out during the campaign. Everybody has a critique of your speech. They want to hear you say what they think. They don't really care what you think. They want you to say what they think. And then that validates them, and that's just not going to happen. And they want you to say it in the words that they imagine in their head are so effective that it's going to win people over. So I try not to, Trump is not me. Trump is not Reagan. Trump is not George W. Bush. Trump is Trump. And so I just accept that you're going to get a different narrative presented in a unique way when he's speaking. And it doesn't do anybody any good to fantasize about, a different way of presenting it. But I thought by and large, he called these people out. He put them on the spot, exposed them for the anti-American frauds that they are. He sold the successes of the first year, and I think there are a lot of them. Most people haven't heard it because the communists in the media don't want to cover it, and cannot manage to be objective in their analysis or coverage of economic issues, which should be data-driven. I thought he did a good job, and I thought Spanberger was okay.
Is it okay if I play the last clip of hers that I had for us to react to? Because it's just her calling out, saying that the Trump is out for Trump, basically.
Oh, yeah. Okay, sure.
In his speech tonight, the president did what he always does. He lied, he scapegoated, and he distracted. And he offered no real solutions to our nation's pressing challenges, so many of which he is actively making worse. He tries to divide us. He tries to enrage us, to pit us against one another, neighbor against neighbor. And sometimes he succeeds. And so you have to ask, who benefits from his rhetoric, his policies, his actions, the short list of laws he's pushed through this Republican Congress? Somebody must be benefiting. He's enriching himself, his family, his friends. The scale of
total
the corruption
BS.
is unprecedented.
Yeah, that's
There's
BS.
the cover-up of the Epstein files, the crypto scams, cozying up to foreign princes for airplanes and billionaires for ballrooms, putting his name and face on buildings all over our nation's capital. This is not what our founders envisioned, not by a long shot.
You don't know. First of all, Abigail Spanberger doesn't have a clue about the founding fathers, so just stick it. We saw that during the debate where they asked her who she admired, and like a good UVA alum, she said Thomas Jefferson, but then she couldn't tell us anything about Thomas Jefferson. So I'm not interested in any analysis from her. She's not a Virginian. She doesn't know anything about the state. None of these people. But
how much money has Trump lost in the last 10 years because he is not not wealthier because of what has transpired in the last decade. This
guy should, if he didn't actually care about America, he should have said, to hell with all of you, burn, and walked off and gone and lived on a resort
with his supermodel wife and his, as you were saying last night, with his his
But
movie
he's not.
star
So
looking family.
I don't think that sells, except for the people who just despise Trump. I don't think that sells. There's no indication that this guy's doing better, putting himself through this at his age, dealing with people like her, and others. There's no upside to it. And I will say, did you see how her microphone was? Somebody on her team made sure that the microphone was low enough where you could actually see her face. That was smart. I'll give that's not her, but that's her team. And then she said something else that jumped out. What were you going to say?
Well, the one thing, and I told you this last night. Okay, she thinks that Trump is out for Trump. Well, let's make sure that Abigail is not out for Abigail. If service is so important to you, you just ran for and got elected governor of Virginia for 4 years. Let's see you complete that term and not accept any nomination for president or vice president.
Yeah, will you make that promise today?
Let's set aside. I challenge the current governor of Virginia to set aside any personal ambition for higher office and commit herself to finishing the term of office for which she ran and got elected to serve.
Good point.
And if you are serious about what you can walk the walk, you've talked the talk, let's walk the walk. Do not aspire to any higher office than the one that you currently occupy for the length of time that you are supposed to serve in this position.
It's a very good point. Who's looking out? Are you trying to are you in this for the people of Virginia, hypothetically?
Right.
Or are you in it to continue the climb? And they're all, all of these guys are such phonies. It's unbelievable. Especially the ones who haven't spent years actually working. I mean, I thought it was interesting that she exposed herself last night for saying, I first ran for Congress in 2018. I'm like, wow, that does help put it in perspective. Less than a decade of being engaged in this stuff. What you did before you ran for office was harass the sitting congressman and be a street agitator.
Rabble rouser. Yeah,
a street agitator. I mean, not a thoughtful person. It's not like she came from some think tank where she's coming up with policy. She was exactly what these horrible people in the streets, these rioters, they're not even protesters, they are rioters. And she has the nerve to talk about how Trump is dividing us? Give me a break. You're the one that just encouraged Virginians to stand against the laws that have been on the books for decades. You're making it harder for the federal government to enforce these laws in a reasonable, responsible, thoughtful way where no one gets hurt. So please don't talk to me about Trump dividing us. You've made that decision, Governor. You made that decision, and you need to own it. So I'm glad you played that one. Yeah.
If she accepts a nomination for vice president or chooses to run for president before her term as governor is up, I think we will replay that clip and say, well, I guess somebody's not so much out for Virginia or service or this, that, and I guess Abigail's out for Abigail.
She'll
for
never
her own
agree
personal ambition.
She'll never agree to step out of the next rung on her ladder.
Oh, of course not. Of course not.
All
which
right.
is why what she said about Trump is so hypocritical.
Totally. All right. Well, let's wrap up here. I want to give out tickets to Jamie Franklin at the Virginia Forum. Another pair of tickets to the VIP reception this Friday at the Glen Allen Cultural Arts Center. To the Virginia Forum. Jamie Franklin, this very dynamic young woman who is leading the effort to keep women and bring women into the conservative movement. And to modernize the Republican Party. Jamie will be speaking, and then I'll get a chance to interview her on stage this Friday night at the Glen Allen Cultural Arts Center. There's a special deal on tickets that continues at thevirginiacouncil.org, thevirginiacouncil.org, if you want to join us in person on Friday. But let's say the 10th person who emails us with tickets in the subject line will get a pair of tickets to the VIP reception. That's the Reid Revolution at gmail.com, the Reid Revolution at gmail.com. And I'll look forward to seeing you on Friday night in Henrico County. That is going to do it for us. I hope you will vote for us in the Style Weekly Best of Richmond contest. Still, that runs till the end of the weekend, till the 28th. Best podcast is the one we're trying to win. Who knows? We'll see. It's the nomination process, but every day Dan and I are voting for this show. I'm hoping that we can get a little bit of attention that way. That would be helpful. And if you'll follow us on every one of the social media platforms that you're on, X, Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, I'm going to go on forever. I appreciate your support. It's the Reid Revolution. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Hope it's a great Wednesday for you.
These people are crazy. I'm telling you, they're crazy.